If you're planning to fly within Canada this summer, expect domestic flights to be more expensive than usual. Data by the Flight Centre Travel Group shows ticket prices for domestic flights in July through September jumped 14% on average over the past year. Here to explain why this is happening is Gabor Lukacz, president of Air Passenger Rights. Gabor, what could be causing this price hike?
There can be a number of causes for a price hike. Most importantly, it's a matter of supply and demand. If there is less supply, less flights available, and more pent-up demand, pent-up desire to travel, then of course prices can go up. There can also be other factors, such as input costs in terms of fuel costs, in terms of the cost for labor, for crew, for airline mechanics. But ultimately, there is also a question in Canada, especially on the domestic market, of whether we have sufficient competition. Because whatever the situation is, airlines will always charge the highest price or the best price from their perspective that is going to maximize their profits. Airlines are not a charity. Their goal is to make the most money for their shareholders, for their owners. And they just look for the sweet spot in the price that is going to result in that. Also, sweet spot in terms of the available supply, in terms of how many seats are available for offered for sale to reach the maximum profit. So if there is more competition, more airlines offering to fly within Canada, then prices are likely to come down.
Okay, so what's the solution here? How do we get more airlines here?
One of the challenges in Canada is the foreign ownership rules, which means that, for example, an airline from Europe that happens to fly into Canada cannot then pick up passengers and transport them within Canada. And that's what we call a cabotage, and that's not allowed in Canada. That would be a first step to permit that, at least for some trustworthy countries' airlines, and see what happens with the prices. There could also be other direction of loosening the foreign ownership requirements in terms of what portion of an ownership of a Canadian domestic airline can be held by a foreign company. But just loosening the foreign ownership rules per se would likely just benefit Air Canada and WestJet, the current incumbents. What we would need is really brand new airlines who are currently not present in Canada entering the domestic market, which means that they would be competing with WestJet, with Air Canada, and forcing them to lower prices.
Okay. And you probably heard this week, WestJet dodging a strike with its engineers, but to prepare, it canceled numerous flights affecting more than 7,000 people, and that's both domestic and international. How will this impact flight prices this summer?
I don't think this has a particular impact on the flight prices. What is important is that this preemptive type of flight cancellation was something which is within the carrier's control, not a safety issue, but a business decision by WestJet. So WestJet will have to compensate those passengers, pay them up to $1,000 in cash compensation, plus meals, plus accommodation, plus any kind of other damages if they fly internationally, like lost wages, missed activities at the destination. WestJet is on the hook for those expenses. WestJet may try to pretend that they don't owe that, but actually this was not a labor disruption. This was simply a business decision by WestJet to preemptively cancel some flights for something which is unrelated to labor disruptions. It was just a business decision.
So what ends up happening now for these people who have their canceled flights? Are they scrambling to get another flight? Does it ruin their whole vacation?
It can badly impact their travel plans for sure. Because this cancellation was something like a business decision by WestJet and not a labor disruption, WestJet is required by law to rebook these passengers either on its own or its partners' networks to depart within 9 hours of the original departure time, or actually WestJet has to take out its corporate credit card and buy these passengers tickets on competitor airlines like Air Canada, Porter, you name it, and that's what the law is. Passengers in this situation may want to buy a ticket themselves if the WestJet is unwilling to comply with its obligations under the law to rebook them on competitor airlines, and then make WestJet pay for all the extra expenses incurred. If necessary, take the airline to small claims court.
Okay, that's Gabor Lukacz, president of Air Passenger Rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.